Hi and welcome to PMPLounge.com. Today in this very quick video, we are going to cover one of the most important topics you will see on PMPLounge.com and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/PMPLounge. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to us. What are you waiting for? So, top 5 tips for PMP exam day. So, we have done several videos earlier wherein we have talked about the tips for the PMP preparation, tips for PMP exam. But these tips specifically apply for the exam day. These tips apply to the time when you are writing the exam and on that day as a whole. So these are our tips. Let's get started. Like I said, it's one of the most important videos you will see on this channel and on pmplounge.com. Let's get started. Now, there are two tips out of these five which are a reminder of what you should have already done by now. That means by now here means by the exam day. And number one is by now you would have already learned all the formulas. And I've made a video on all the formulas that you need to learn for PMP exam. I'll link to that video in the description. Go over that and definitely learn all the formulas discussed in that video. So there is no alternative to it. You have to learn all the formulas. There's no getting around. And like I said earlier in my video on the formulas, the amount of calculation you're expected to do in the PMP exam is very insignificant. It's very less. PMP is not an exam of your financial prowess, how much you understand finance or how much you understand mathematics. It's an exam of project management. That's why if you know the formula, the values will all be given, the calculations will be straightforward, and you should be able to answer those questions. So, there's no alternative to it. Learn all the formulas. The link to all the formulas that you need to learn for PMP is in the description. Go over it. And when you have learned all the formulas on the exam day, jot them down on your PMP brain dump, right? Especially the formulas for earned value and PERT. So jot them down on your brain dump so that they are available to you every time when you need them during the exam. So, number one tip for the exam day is you should have learned all the formula by now. Jot them down in your brain dump. They do not skip the PMP formulas. There's no alternative to them. Let's move on. Number two, like I mentioned, there are two tips in these set of five tips which expect you to do to be ready for the PMP exam. So on the exam day, you would have already practiced the technique of eliminating the completely implausible options first. Now, what is this technique? If you're wondering, let me explain to you quickly. When you face a question in the PMP exam, right? There will be four options for that question, right? If you're unsure of which option is the most appropriate one, is the correct one, apply this technique of eliminating the completely implausible options first. And you are definitely going to notice at least one or two such options which will seem totally incorrect in the first glance itself. Eliminate those options out, and you're left with two options. Think about it, ponder over the question, and then select the correct answer. So, this is the technique to apply, and you should have already practiced this technique in your mock exams by the day of the PMP. Don't forget to use an educated guess to select the most appropriate option. Now, if you're left with two options, you have already eliminated two others, and you're still not able to make out the absolutely correct out of the two, then use an educated guess and move on. Select an appropriate option and move on. So that was our tip number two. You should practice eliminating the completely implausible options in your mock PMP tests so that on the day of the PMP exam, you are already aware of this technique and you can use this technique in the PMP exam. Let's move on. Number three is the fact that there are no negative marks for incorrect answers in the PMP exam. If you didn't know this, you know it now. There are no negative markings in the PMP exam. So that means you need to answer every single question. You're not losing anything out of it, right? So answer every single question in your PMP exam. There are no negative marks. So for incorrect answers. So even if you don't know a question at all, even if you're unsure of what the answer could be, even if you have no idea and have not heard anything around that question ever, you can still select an option, mark an option at least. You won't get any negative marks out of it, right? So answer every single question is our tip number three. Moving on to tip number four, you need to answer 200 questions in 240 minutes, which is 4 hours, of course, which gives you about 72 seconds for each question. Now, this is important, right? So you have a minute and 12 seconds for every single question. Now, you might have heard people saying that they completed their PMP exam in 2.5 hours, in 2 hours, in 3 hours, right? And they didn't need the entire 4 hours. Well, fine and dandy for them. For you, you should always try to take the entire 4 hours available to you in the exam. So you have got 72 seconds for each question. Even if you read a question and you're absolutely aware and absolutely sure of its answer, don't mark it right then and there. Read it once again, right? You anyways have 72 seconds for a question. Read it again and mark the most appropriate answer, the correct answer that you are pretty much sure of, you're 100% sure of. Mark that and move on. It Reading a question again might take, what, let's say 5 seconds, 6 seconds, even 10 seconds. You would have spent 20 seconds on one question by reading it twice, even if you knew all the exact answer to it. Investing 20 seconds on a question that you're 100% sure of makes sense. You still have 52 seconds in the buffer, and in the end, you can go over the entire paper again. So, do not skip through the questions. Do not be in a hurry, even if you know the answer, even if you're 100% sure of the answer. Read the question again, because PMP exam is a tricky one. It's not difficult, but it's tricky. So reading the question again may help and may enable you to change your answer and mark the correct answer. You might think that you know the correct answer, but reading it again might change your mind and you might be able to select the correct answer, and what you thought was correct could turn out to be a wrong answer. So read the questions at least twice, even if you know the answer in the first go itself. But at the same time, do not invest more than 72 seconds on a question. So if you have already invested a minute in a question, try to move on. Try to select an appropriate answer that you think it could be correct. Select it, move on, because later you can always come back and recheck that question, reread that question, and go over the question once again. So do not invest more than 72 seconds on a question. And this doesn't mean that you need to be looking at the clock all the time, right, to calculate 72 seconds. But you can have a fair idea, and you can make use of your instincts and try not to invest too much time on the same question, right? And finally, like I mentioned earlier, you can always come back to a question later when you have time. You will definitely have time, because like I mentioned in the example earlier in the video, there could be questions where you already know the answer. Read the question again, invest like 20 seconds for that question and then move on. So you'll always have such questions and you'll always be left with buffer time so that you can come back and revisit all the questions and make sure you then give some time and select the appropriate answer. Number five, whenever there is a conflict between PMBOK concept or the PMBOK concept and the real life project management experience, PMBOK wins. As simple as that. Whenever there is a conflict, whenever you feel like uh, there's something fishy, you would do something differently in your real life, but then you realize that the concepts in the PMBOK, the way a PMP certified project manager is supposed to behave and supposed to take action on a certain situation, you need to select the PMBOK concept option. You need to select the PMBOK. You need to give preference to the PMBOK concept and not your personal, you know, project management experience. As simple as that. Your answer needs to be in alignment with the PMBOK concept. It cannot be in alignment of what you do in your real life, because there are practices in real life project management experience which do not align with PMBOK. So make sure PMBOK always wins whenever you have a conflict between PMBOK concepts and your real life project management experience. And that is all that I had in this video. Hope you liked it. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and I hope these 5 tips are helpful in your PMP exam on the exam day, during the exam. Keep these tips in mind and you should be able to clear your PMP exam. Other related videos for PMP tips and PMP exam preparation tips, all of them are available in the description. Do go over those videos as well. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and check us out on our social media, facebook.com/PMP Lounge and twitter.com/PMP Lounge. And as always, do check out the website pmplounge.com, your number one free resource for PMP certification and project management industry information. Thank you.